at this point, I don't even think that we should consider the Leafs winning in regulation. It's Leafs talk, another shootout edition. Some things you can just predict, some things you just know are going to go down. When Seattle scored that second goal, was there any doubt in your mind that we were going to be sitting here after an extra frame and potentially a shootout?
They just love making the boys stay at the station longer. They're just addicted to it. The guys are just there grinding, producing the show. They just love making them stay an extra 25 every night. They won again, and it's like I feel like we're gonna do the same show again. But you got a 3-1 lead against the least inspiring hockey squad I've watched in a really long time. You probably win the game in regulation, but they get the win again. But still stuck on 5 RWs there, bud.
Yeah, all right. So it's Leafs Talk. I'm JD Bunkis. He's Sam McKee. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at JD Bunkis, at Sammy McKee. Hit the thumbs up if you're watching live right now on YouTube, and subscribe and leave 5 stars if you're listening on Spotify or Apple. But okay, so there's a lot of positives I thought for tonight. Like the old JD notebook was full of pretty good notes for the first 2 periods of this hockey game, right? I thought that they played a little tougher. There was a couple of moments in the game where a couple scrums I liked, a Tavares bump after Bertuzzi takes a cross check. Marner gets off the schneid. He scores a hat trick. We can go through those goals, I'm sure, at some point here in a second. The Leafs, I thought, played like a pretty good physical, tight hockey game. They were taking advantage of a team that just didn't really have too much. And I thought my favorite even moment of the game was the Kraken get back in the game with some power plays in the second period, and the second one ends after a kill, and the top guys just go right to work and dominate a couple of 5-on-5 shifts. And I went, good, this is the team that you're supposed to have. This is what is supposed to show up for the Leafs. And then that third period is just like, it's so tough. These guys make it so hard on you sometimes. You want to heap praise on them. Tonight was supposed to be praise night. This was going to be cookie night. This was going to be attaboy night. And that third period is just, it's impossible. They refuse to let you just go through a game without putting up a red flag, man.
Yeah, they are a weird team to analyze, because here again, they get 2 points and they're moving themselves further into the playoff picture. And it's like, if you were zooming in on this season or just flying in here and be like, what's all the issues? What's the problems? But it's just the inconsistencies throughout these games that just kill me, in terms of them having these stretches of games where they look so good and they're able to roll 4 lines, and having, McCann in there, your 4th line looks so much more capable, and you're rolling 4 lines. The 3rd line looks good, Matthews and Marner. And then it's just lulls of the game where they get hemmed in. Like, how many times have we seen this year the other team have close to 2? I guess maybe it happens with every team, but it just feels like it's happened a lot where these guys get stuck in their defensive zone and they're not bending their knees. It's like the other team's just snapping it around. It's not even the inconsistency game to game. It's the inconsistencies within the game that are so frustrating to me. Like, it feels like we're watching 2 different teams within games at times. It's a really weird team to analyze.
Bro, it's tough. And I'll just say this. I know that there's some people that tune into this right away and they just want to, like, they're like, the team won. Why can't you just be happy with the team won?
Great. But it's year 7.
Yeah. It's year 7, but not just that. It's the way that they're winning all these games now. Like, they've now played, thank you to our boy Luke Swadron, who went and did the research. They've now played 35 minutes of overtime.
Yeah, it's a lot.
35 minutes. It's buddy.
10th game?
It's still November.
It's 10th game tonight?
It's still November. I assume he's adding tonight's game. I assume that he added it. I'm trusting Luke. All right. If I'm wrong, Luke, put your Twitter handle in the chat. If you're wrong, you take all the bullets. You take all the bullets in the chat if you got this one wrong.
Luke's been at the station for 10 hours. I saw him this morning at 11 a.m. The guy is in the sausage factory. He doesn't leave.
He's grinding. He's grinding. Yeah, he's grinding. Shout out to Luke. But yeah, dude, it's November. They've played 35 minutes here. I can't be bothered to care that they win these games this way anymore. Like, I want to see them close a game out in regulation. I want to see them find a way to actually, not including this game, says Luke. Wow, Lukey. All right. So, but at Luke Swadron. But yeah, that's 39 minutes. Buddy, we've played 2 extra periods of hockey. Thanks to overtime so far this season. Again, in November, it's too much for these guys. It's too many minutes of extra time. Enough is enough. Close out a hockey game. What I will say is, okay, the win is good because it's buying them time. Like they
For
desperately
sure.
need these points because it's pretty clear at this point that they're not just gonna, I don't think, start ripping off regulation wins. I think that the team that we're seeing right now, them still being able to collect some points is a huge
Mhm.
positive, given like the
Where they
standings,
are
the Atlantic this
and
year.
the
So yes,
their decor.
yes, exactly. So I don't want to make it seem like they shouldn't get any credit for these wins. They do need to collect these points. But yeah, I think just about everybody watching this would like to just see a normal. Can't you just win 5-2 with an empty netter one of these times? That would be great.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I was just looking at the ice times here because you were talking about the extra frames, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just more of the same. They're playing their top guys so much. And can we focus on overtime a little bit?
I mean,
Like,
if you want, I really don't care about overtime. I
I
barely
know
even
you
watched it.
don't.
I'll be
I
honest.
know you don't. I know you don't care about overtime, and it's 3-on-3, and it's not.
Yeah.
But like, can those guys bend their knees? Can they the 3-on-1 that the Kraken get in overtime? Matthews, it takes a solid, two steamboats for him to get back in the picture after they've already had a chance when the puck goes to the trailer. Like, I know it's an exhibition. I know it's 3-on-3. I know it's like, it's not the real hockey. I understand that. But like some of the visuals of Willie and Matthews, how long was Matthews out there for the start of the 3-on-3? Like, the reason these guys' ice times are so long is because they're staying out there so much. It's like he must have been out there for the 2 full first minutes of overtime. He had a couple chances to change. He didn't do. He lost every battle out there. I hate the way they play in overtime. I hate it.
Yeah.
It's just, I
I
know
have a
it's 3-on-3 and it's a different thing. I get it, but they just
yeah.
look so like no purpose. Like they're not bending their knees. It's hard to watch.
For me, I can't get too worked up about it because to me, it's just
I know it
the
doesn't
regular
matter.
season is a test for the
Yeah.
postseason. We're not going to see it. And
Mhm.
B, you said it. Keith leans on these guys so hard throughout a game that by the
Yep.
time they get to overtime, they've all got tired brain.
I know.
So, like, what's my expectation? I just when you're playing 3-on-3, it's a skills competition. I'm sure if you went through the league and you started looking at all the 3-on-3s, that you'd see a lot of plays like this from the star players who have played a ton of minutes throughout those games. The
Sure.
difference for the Leafs is, again, they've played 40 extra minutes of this, so we have a larger sample size. So it seems like a little bit
And
more
4
annoying.
guys play. They don't
Yeah,
play anyone else. They play
yeah.
there's like who's the forward rotation? It goes Matthews, Marner, then they go Yarncroc and Willie, then they go back to Matthews and Marner, and then within like the
Mhm.
last minute or so, they'll go to Domi. And it's crazy that I have
Dude,
this memorized because I watched it so many times already. Like, I
I
actually
was gonna say,
know their overtime rotation off by heart because I've watched it 10 times already this season. So yeah.
I think Nick Robertson only cracked 10 minutes of ice time once in his last 6 games,
Yeah.
and I'm wondering if he cracked it again. Oh, he did. He barely 10-10.
Yeah. 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 It's been going
Gregor is the
down
surprising one, only 9 minutes. You gotta figure that Sheldon Keefe should be finding more time for him. Like, I'm not really
maybe in
seeing
three
the
on
parts.
three.
Yeah, I'm just not seeing the parts of Gregor's game that should have him completely limited, but yeah, we're back to the same bad habits of just like, hey, the star players are playing way too many minutes,
Roll them. Roll them.
and it's the same dudes on the ice all night. All right, anyway, let's get into the big positive of the night, and that's Marner, right? Second career hat trick, and I will say, obviously, he's the biggest star of the game. The first goal, are we gonna go through these? The power play one? I like this because he's just battling for a puck down low, and then he does the thing, the little cute, sneaky, like hides the extra second in the pop out from the back of the net. A lot of guys
Mhm.
scoring that way. But I just thought it was crafty. I thought it was smart, and I like the battle ahead of it.
Yeah, he looked awesome tonight, obviously. And I
Yeah.
know we're talking about overtime and shootout, but the edge work that he showed off on his shootout winner was pornographic. Like
Yeah.
that, he was legitimately just doing that, being like, "Hey,
Yeah.
20,000 people, watch how sick I am at this." It was
Yeah.
completely needless. He's just dancing on skates. That was nice to see. But yeah, like he's just the bubble Marner thing is hilarious. He just looked way more decisive, way more purposeful, just what you expect from Marner. He looked like
Mhm.
Mitch Marner. He looked like the guy that can carry a team at times tonight. And it's not just because of the hat trick. I guess it's a chicken and the egg thing where you're not getting anything, you're not getting a sniff of anything, and the
Mhm.
puck's not going your way, and you're not as engaged, you're not as confident. The first one goes in, like you said, and it's just like a
Yeah.
boulder's off his shoulder, and he's been great all night. So you're hoping the sort of the same thing happens for Matthews here soon. But yeah,
Yeah.
Marner was electric tonight. Full
Yeah.
value.
The difference between him and Matthews, and I'm sure that Matthews is feeling a little snake bit right now or whatever.
Mhm.
He's carrying a little bit of this pressure. God, the finish and the breakaway too is
Very
gorgeous.
nice.
Um, A couple things with Mitch. I do feel as though there's a different mental component with him than the other guys. Like the second he scores that goal, it just, the monkey's off his back. He's just got the pressure back off his shoulders. And you and I always say when he's at his best, he's got that different jump. He's got that like water bug element, right? Where he's just moving differently. He's quick in short spaces, and all of a sudden he's just around the play more. And that was Mitch tonight. So good for him. He was awesome. I think he needed it because, he was taking a lot of bullets from people. I think that, what would you say the percentage of group chats that have made Mitch Marner offseason trades is right now? Like 85%?
High. Yeah. Maybe after these full games, maybe from these back from these games from Sweden, it's flipped back to Willie.
No, that's getting it. He's got a long runway before that ends up happening. But he had. I did think
some Marner chats. Like even Kipper was like, "Well, maybe." Like I don't know. It's like maybe Willie's past Marner. I'm like, "Oh my god, he's saying it."
Yeah, dude, if Kipper's saying it, then the group chats are saying it. All right.
Correct.
If the number one Marner fan is off Marner corner, then it's going rough for Mitch. So I think he needed that one tonight. He was great tonight. So kudos to him. I want to say too, like out of the second kind of stars for me is I just like the pressure from the top six tonight, but I am going to give a little special shout out to a guy who took a bad penalty late, Matthew Nyes. I thought he's been like really quiet lately for the Leafs, and that he's been sort of the under the radar non-contributor for this team because so much oxygen.
Bad tonight.
You thought he's bad? I liked him. I thought that he had good jump.
I haven't really liked him a whole lot for a long time here.
See, like I feel the total opposite. The first two periods of this game, I felt like he was just like a real impact player. Like the top two lines were buzzing for the first two periods, and then they just completely went away in the third, and everybody was dreadful. But no, I thought that this one was like
just recency bias because I watched that third period and everybody was awful. But to me, it's just like it's been a huge lull here for Nyes.
It has been.
I think that's pretty.
Look at that play right there. It's like good little puck battle on the wall, good puck pursuit. Like that was just kind of him all night. Like he had good energy, good jump. He was winning a lot of battles. He was forcing a lot of turnovers. That one shift right there, he forces 2 turnovers on the play. He creates both scoring chances. Like I like him.
30 seconds into the game, and then it's. I just think that it's a lot to ask of him, and he's still a rookie. We forget how young he is, and it's a lot too soon. I think that if you're gonna put him into that spot, you're going to have to kind of expect this. To me, it's going to be Yarncroc that's going to go back up there again. Like that's just going to be the Alex Kerfoot move where it's just, they're going to maybe run it out there again to start these games, but you're going to see Yarncroc go up there a bit more. Nyes go back down the lineup.
I think so too.
It's just,
that's a long-term thing. And I do think that that actually could happen quicker than later, just because I think the Robertson experiment is nearing its conclusion. I just don't think that they're going to play him for much longer. Like it's not going to happen. He's a defensive liability every single night. You want to talk about a guy who's like losing every single puck battle. He's fighting it. The coach is yelling at him on the bench. He's not playing any minutes. I feel like he's going to be Marley's bound soon, and that Nyes could end up on that line. But no, I like Nyes tonight. I was really happy with his play through the first two. The third period is like, find me the Leaf you liked in the third.
Joseph Woll.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There you go. I was going to say, can't really find anybody else. It's another total collapse for this team. Just lack of attention to detail, lack of follow through. And you got to wonder if some of it is just like, again, burnout for these players who are carrying such a heavy workload.
Man, look at who you're depending on to play defense. Like that's a huge part of this. You're depending on 3 legitimate, not legitimate, but borderline AHL guys that are playing in your top 6. They are all contributors. These aren't guys that are mixing in and out. These are guys that are on your team, going to be playing a ton. Like I don't have the ice times in front of me. I'm just pulling it up here quickly. But Brody plays 23. Riley's always near. He was 26. Lagesson plays 18 minutes tonight. Connor Timmins plays 14 minutes tonight. It's just, you're going to have lulls defensively when you're playing guys that are borderline NHLers for 15 minutes and 18 minutes. Like, it's just kind of the way it is. So
I actually don't think they've been that big of a problem. I really don't. Like, I like Benoit and I like Lagesson. I think both guys have been totally fine as depth defensemen. I really don't see anything in Connor Timmins. Like, I'm sure it'll happen at some point. He can snap a pass-ish, but I think it's pretty clear why he's the guy that's bottom in minutes on the team. I think he's the worst of the bunch. But I actually think that like one of the big positive stories of the season so far is that like they've gotten real depth contributions from Lagesson and Benoit. Like, I think that those guys play a simple game. Both of them play pretty heavy. Neither of them is like overly mistake prone. Neither of them is like super fast footed. Neither of them is like a breakout champion. Could they be better? Absolutely. But like, maybe this is actually a good spot for us to do Zadorov thoughts. Like,
are you just gonna like just keep blowing leads to bad teams? Like, you know, like I know they're probably like, I think Benoit was a -1 tonight. I think Lagesson was even or whatever.
I was gonna say they scored 2 power play goals and
Riley's out there for one of the goals against in the third period, the one that he walked off the wall where Kampf lets him walk in or whatever. I just think you're stretching your top guys so much to me when you're playing. Like Brody has definitely taken a dip, right? And I think he probably played up near 24 minutes tonight, 23 minutes. And it's just like when you're playing these guys so much, Brody is not a 23-minute a night kind of guy. He just isn't. And Riley can play. Riley can play a ton. McKee was playing a lot more than he should. So you're asking a ton of these guys because you can't play the guys underneath as much. I get what you're saying with those guys being good depth, but at some point you need to add to it. And like we can talk about Zadorov or whatever. I have thought a lot about it since I sent a tweet earlier about maybe at least upping that offer. I understand the fact that he's probably not the best fit. But to me, they're in like borderline desperation mode here in terms of finding bodies, and looking at that price, it was just a tough pill to swallow. That's all I'll say.
I just don't feel that way. I just don't feel that way. I just think, like, you know me, I was on record saying I think to Zadorov early on in the year, before the Liljegren injury, before everything that's happened with John Klingberg, that he was kind of the fit, that they needed a big, heavy 50 that could provide a little bit of secondary scoring. But since then, like, things have changed. They don't have John Klingberg anymore. And I think that they found a couple of guys who can be their 5-6 defensemen in Lagesson and Benoit. Like, I don't think they're the issue. Like, I think that the issue with the blue line, the bigger one to me, is that, they lean too heavily on McCabe and now Brody as their like top guys.
They do that?
No, but that's not even true. Dude, they're playing Lagesson and Benoit a bunch of minutes. They do that because they need somebody to play with Riley. Like, they still have to play other defensemen. Like, again, Benoit played 15 tonight. Lagesson played 18 tonight. Like, that's a lot for third pairing guys. They're doing that because like they have Connor Timmins back there, and then he'll be the first guy that gets swapped out and replaced. Like, you can find a couple of guys that are gonna be all right. What this team needs is not more depth defensemen. What they need is a guy who's going to be an impact player on their right side that can slot in on their second pairing or on their first pairing immediately. Like, they need a heavy minute, 20-minute a night guy. And it clearly needs to be the right side. So there's a couple things here that I really think that Leaf fans need to understand.
But those don't, like, I'm sure there's guys that are kicking down the door to trade right shot 20-minute a night kind of guys.
But that's the whole point.
Beggars can't be choosers here.
No, the point is that they need to be able to do two things. One, they're not a team that has a whole treasure trove of assets. They've got a couple of things. They've got a few draft picks, and they've got a limited amount of cap space. Like the Klingberg injury, they got to make sure that they use that cap space wisely. If all of a sudden they go out and get a Zadorov, which apparently they tried to do, but they were trying to get Calgary to retain money, and Calgary wasn't willing to do it. So it was a different price. If Toronto brings in Zadorov, all that cap space that they just freed up from Klingberg now goes to a guy that in an ideal world slots in as a good fifth defenseman, a bad fourth defenseman. Like, it's just, it doesn't make sense for this team long term. What is the goal? Is it to make the playoffs? Yes. But is it to actually win in the playoffs? That's the bigger goal here. They're still winning regular season games. They're not in a desperate position. They're not the Edmonton Oilers where it's like, holy crap, every game you lose now is just complete desperation mode. You don't have the cap. You don't have the assets. You had a general manager who's working with his former team where they obviously can't have the optics of looking like they handed it to this guy. And the Leafs wanted them to retain salary, which they weren't willing to do. Like, I really don't have a problem with this. The bigger thing for me is that the next move now has to be a hit for Tree Living. Like, if you're going to pass on Zadorov at that price and you're going to have people saying, hey, why didn't you do this? Then the next move you do, like you just mentioned, it has to be a Tanev at a good price. It has to be some kind of defenseman with control who's actually going to slot in as your top four guy who you paid a bunch of things for, because I think that they've only really got one swing at this.
Yeah. And I think what you said there is really fair about Zadorov and the fit and, the trade price and the optics or whatever. I just remember from a Leaf fan's perspective, it's a tough pill to swallow when you desperately need defense help. And like the point where, I think you you rate Lagesson pretty high. I like Lagesson a lot, but I like Benoit a lot. He's been fine. It just feels like they're going to stretch these guys out. And, that's what the difference between good players and bad players is. Good players, you can play a lot and they just kind of stay the same. Like there's going to be huge dips. Got Boston coming in on Saturday night. Like they're a really good team. Seattle stinks and you still go to a shootout with them or whatever. I'm not putting it on them. You know what I'm saying? I think it's tough optics when he goes for nothing. When the prices that people were putting out there. I think it's just tough optics when you're desperate for defense and he goes for not a whole lot. And I know the price would have been different for Toronto. They have no second round picks. Dubas left them with nothing in terms of second round picks. So maybe that was going to be the price to retain money. I'm just worried about the decor. And I know they're in a good spot or whatever, but even if they have everybody healthy, well, you trade for Zadorov, it's like, okay, well then he just plays in the bottom pair. He can't be on a bottom pair of a really good
salary
team.
cap exists, bud. Like this isn't a vacuum where there's no cap. Like if they bring everybody back healthy and Zadorov's on the team, that's what you're set as.
But if Klingberg's gone, right?
Yeah.
Like if he's on LTIR and then he's gone, then you just kind of slot him on the bottom pair instead of having Klingberg in there, no? With the same core that you already had?
Yeah, but that's the point, is that they don't want to have a better bottom pairing. What they view it as is they need to improve the top four. Like that's what they're going to use the cap on. If they use up the space onto Zadorov, that means come trade deadline, if one of these defensemen does become available, if all of a sudden you are in the sweepstakes for a top four guy that actually fits with this team, you now have less draft capital to use and you no longer have cap space. And so what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to pay for more retention, which is something this team can't afford to do because they don't have a bunch of first round picks. They don't have second round picks. They're basically missing an entire draft class coming up here. They've got Fraser Minton, who's in the minors, and then they've got Easton Cowan. Dude, look at this team. Like you think they'd be playing Nick Robertson if there was anybody in the Marlies right now worth a damn? Like, who are these guys?
Well, they're playing Nick Robertson so that somebody thinks he's good.
But that's it.
They're going to pop and think he's worth a trade. That's why they're playing him.
They do not have assets. They don't have young players of value. They don't have salary cap space. They tried to make a retention deal work with Calgary. Calgary wasn't interested in doing it. And so what ends up happening is you put more pressure on the next move you make. But again, I can't get too worked up about the Leafs not adding a fifth defenseman when right now the team looks like they're chock full of fifth defense. It's like, how many fifth defensemen do you want? They got McCabe, they got Lagesson, they got Benoit.
Yeah, you bring him in, he's definitely better than the 3 AHL borderline guys he's playing.
Yeah.
Like he's immediately on your second pair and he's better than those three guys, right?
Okay, he's better. Okay, so he's better. But baseball does WAR, right? Wins above replacement. How many more wins do you think Zadorov is going to bring the Leafs this season?
It's not baseball.
I'm saying,
I don't think you quantify it like that. Like, I mean,
is there WAR in hockey?
I don't know. I just think they're a better team with him. Listen, I know that Zadorov is not that good. I get that. I understand he's a bottom pair guy. I'm not that bent out of shape about it. I just think it's really hard optics when you need defensemen and you didn't get the guy that was rumored to be coming here and they desperately need him.
See, I think that's the only reason. That's the only reason it's hard optics, like to people, is that it's like Toronto is the #1 fantasy land market in all of pro sports. We're doing it with Ohtani right now. We did it with Damian Lillard on the basketball team. We do it with Zadorov. Like every single person.
I wouldn't say those guys. I don't think it's in the same class.
Yeah, they're not in the same class. I'm just saying
that's the last time Zadorov's going to be mentioned in a sentence with Ohtani.
My only point is that anybody who's available is always coming here, and we spin it because we've got a big media group that basically has to talk about this stuff. Like we've had every single show in this city saying the Leafs are going to get Tanev and Zadorov. And so Zadorov goes somewhere else and it goes for a little cheaper and people pull their hair out. But if you think about it practically for 2 seconds, it doesn't make sense for Toronto. Like it doesn't help them win more games this year if they have Zadorov on the team. Like, and if it is, it's like a war of one. Like, is that going to be the difference for this team? Is that the margins that they're working within? I don't think so. I don't think that's worth them eating up their cap space. They need to swing bigger than that. All right. Did anything else you got on this?
On Zadorov or on the hockey team? No, I don't.
No, on both.
Like, I would say that I don't want to be painted into the corner of my heart being destroyed, but I just thought that optics were tough and that they need help is what I'm getting at here.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable going into a stretch of games against good teams playing those three guys 15 to 18 minutes a night. And
I
it's
think you
like,
just got to ride it out.
well, but everybody but yeah, I guess. But I was told by every hockey guy I knew that, it's really hard. It's really hard. And then like 2 trades have happened in the last 2 days. It's like, oh, you can't do it now. And it's like, oh, well, Calgary did it to their division opponent in November. So it can't be that hard.
Again, I think that some of these teams are in different positions than what Toronto's in because they've made so many trades in the past and they haven't built up a farm system that really has much. They're also a team that's extremely capped out. Like it is a tough time to make trades, and Vancouver did it, and kudos to them. I think it's an awesome trade for them. I think it's a tough trade for a Calgary fan where you're like, that's it, that's all we got. But yeah, like I said, I do think that this puts more pressure on Tree Living for the next move that he makes. Because if he makes a bad trade moving forward and he gets another like 5th defenseman who isn't as good as Zadorov, who hasn't scored 14 goals and doesn't bring that edge, and he gives up a similar trade package for it, you're starting to shake your head and wonder, hey, what the hell was this? And if they don't land that right shot D, or they end up overpaying for somebody that's another rental, I think that's going to look bad on Tree Living. I don't think that this is without warts. I'm just saying that this one's not too big of it for me. You know what would have been a nice one though is keeping Jared McCann. He's officially a Leaf killer.
Yeah, he scores a lot against the Leafs. Loves to
He's
score
got
against the Leafs.
6 points in 5 games against the Leafs.
So it was to
4
protect
goals.
Hall? It was to protect Hall?
To protect Hall, which ended up being kind of like more reasonable given what they needed from him that year.
Hall played a lot of minutes for them for a lot of years, but I mean, this guy shoots it in the net a lot. I think he's having a down year. He scored 40 last year, right?
Yeah.
I don't think
these are just rips.
What's he at this year? If someone could Google that for me quickly. He's a good shooter. He'd be a great addition to this Leafs team. Would they end up paying him $5 million a year for a while? I feel like. So yeah, he's a Leaf killer. Loves to shoot it against the Leafs. I mean, Dubas isn't here anymore, so maybe you could take a little bit of just relax a little bit there, Jared. Yep. He's like, I got to show off. He was wearing his Sioux Greyhounds underwear tonight, so he was feeling really good about it. But we haven't mentioned Woll, eh?
No, well, I was going to say I've got 2 closing thoughts, and one is Joe Woll.
Yeah.
It's his 3rd straight start, and he was really, really good again. Like,
oh yeah.
I think that you could make a minor complaint about the 2nd goal in terms of just everybody getting beat. Like Kampf gets beat. It's the Tolvanen one. It's just a rip. It's a goal scorer's goal.
11 goals. No, he's having a good year again.
Yeah, he's having a really good year. 11 goals. But yeah, the Tolvanen one, I went like, okay, maybe he makes this save or that's the one that he would want. But it's a rip. It's a nasty play. He cuts towards the net. Like, I don't hate it. I don't think it's a soft goal. But either way, I thought he was awesome again tonight. Like, he's clearly the number 1 guy. And the weird thing is, I kind of think that you have to play him again against Boston on Saturday. Like, I don't think
weird
that
about that.
Well, you and I both thought that he was going to be the 1A to Samsonov's 1B, and that they were going to have to lean on Samsonov at some point this year. But I'm not sure I would have ever thought that one of the goalies was going to get 4 straight starts healthy.
Yeah, I think it's just one guy has shown to be really good, and the other guy they don't trust. They trust this guy. Keefe loves him. Keefe trusts him. Talked about it this morning at the morning skate, and his word was it was an easy decision. So tells you all you need to know about where they're at with their goaltending. It was an easy decision. I'm sure. I'm sure old Sammy didn't love hearing that.
No, I'm sure he did not. It was an easy decision. The last thing for me is just, do you remember? You don't remember this, but last year Mitch Marner was awesome when he chipped his tooth, and I said he should have kept it, and I called him Chip Marner, and I said, hey, keep it rolling.
Zero recollection. I was off a lot last year, though. Maybe that was when I was in Cabo or something. I don't know.
No, I don't know. Maybe not. But I do think that there's something funny about how the guy chips a tooth, and Chip Marner is awesome, and then he takes a puck off the cheek, and he has to wear the fishbowl, and now fishbowl, like Bubble Marner, whatever the hell you want to call him, all of a sudden he gets red hot too. Basically, the theory is like, you remember that offensive lineman on the Jaguars? I can't remember his name. Maybe he was D-line, actually. John, I can't remember his name. Anyway,
no idea.
He used to have the warm-up, though. It's famous from, like, top tens, is getting slapped in the face by his assistant coach.
I know that
He would just ream on that dude, and he would be like, holy crap, that's how this guy gets fired up. I kind of think that's what they need to do to Marner moving forward. It's just like somebody shows up out of the blue and just slaps
with a puck
the life out of him. Yes, just Chappelle Show style. What do the 5 fingers say to the face? Like slap. Yeah, I don't think he was a guard. I think he was John Henderson. He was a guard. I thought that he was a D tackle. But anyway,
I was gonna say that Bubble Marner Hoodie Mello.
Yeah.
When LeBron put the Batman mask on,
Yeah.
back with the Heat.
Iconic.
Yeah, and then they made him change it because everybody was like, I don't know why they made him change it, but there's been lots of guys that have done little things with their gear. I'm trying to think of any like in baseball, but I guess there's none. But yeah, the football, I can't think of any. But
no, baseball just huge chains.
huge chains. Yeah,
huge chains. That's it.
Good on. He just looks so minor hockey.
Yeah.
Like he just looks like he looks like a, I don't know, he looks like a AAA guy out there. Like he just looks so minor hockey.
No, he just looks like someone they're gonna send back to the World Juniors this year. Where they're like Mitch Marner, they're gonna send him down so he can join the junior team again.
Looking like Sid wearing number 9 at the World Juniors with a cage on it. Yeah. I think the bubble, I don't like the bubble versus the cage. I've worn both in my life. I think the cage is feels way better. I don't know. I guess like it's clearer vision with the bubble, but I feel like you get way less like wind on your face, and it feels like you're way more like trapped than when you have a cage on. That would be my take on the bubble versus cage. But yeah, it looks great. Good on you, bud.
Yeah, enjoy the World Junior Tournament, and then the scandal, and then the scandal afterwards when they find out that you're actually 27 years old.
I was gonna say World Juniors and scandals, buddy. Careful.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Again, hit the thumbs up on YouTube if you're watching there. Leave 5 stars if you're watching on Spotify and on iTunes. It's not much, but it does help people find the show. So please do it if that's how you're listening. Thanks to all the people, by the way, that shared the Spotify Wrapped with us, especially the ones that tagged us in the story, because that was really nice to see. And yeah, like it's nice when people DM you the story and like they DM you the screenshot. That's like, yeah, share it. Don't be afraid. I don't want to be your side piece. Put it out in the story. Put it up for the world to see.
Can I tell you something about Spotify Wrapped? You know how much I love Spotify Wrapped. So it's just like one of my favorite time of the year. I get so excited for it. Like I even had it on my phone for a couple days, and I waited. I just waited, and I finally went to it, and they juice the numbers for the big stars. There's no question. Like there is absolutely no question like that they juice. So I had Drake as my number 1 guy this year. Number 1 guy. And I didn't have one Drake song in my top 5 songs. I listened to Drake for like 3 days after his crappy new album came out. And they're like, that's your number 1 artist. I had three Steely Dan songs in my top 5, and they're like, Drake's your guy. You're a Drake guy. I'm like, what the hell? How am I Drake guy?
First of all, you're absolutely a Drake guy. You've been talking about defended all the Drake albums. No, I'm just saying.
Drake, but not this year. There's no way he was my number 1 artist. No, not a chance.
Buddy, this is so great. This is the pure reveal. You just said it. It's your favorite time of the year. What are you, weirdo, for Spotify Wrapped? It's the strangest thing I've ever heard anybody say. I banged through mine quickly, and I'm like, oh yeah, like still punk rock and hip hop, like for the 30th year running. Like, what do you know? And I couldn't give it a second thought. You're looking at this. You wanted so badly to post some hipster Steely Dan take, and then all of a sudden it was Drake, and your heart was broken. You were broken that you're just a basic Drake lover like everybody else, loving on Drake.
I love Drake, but I did love his new album. What was your top 5? Could you have it on hand?
It was all the concerts that I saw this year, like because it's like I crush. So it's like I saw NoFX this year. I saw Blink-182 this year. I saw Pup this year. Who else did I see? I saw Westside. Like, it's everybody that I like. It's Westside Gun. It's like it's the same stuff over and over and over again, like year over. I bet you if you did my Spotify Wrapped, it would like look very similar, like year over year, essentially. I always the Beths were in my top 5. The Chats.
Oh, you see, you're more of a hipster than I thought. Like I don't know any of these.
I really love the Beths. They're one of my favorite bands ever. So yeah, I listen to them a lot. That's like my sad boy stuff. Or like, okay.
I had Drake number 1. Shame. Andy Schaaf, Luke Combs, Steely Dan, Tyler Childers.
Luke Combs.
Yeah. I listened to Luke Combs for a week in August, and they're like, he's on your list. Like, okay, man.
1 week of Luke Combs, and you're destroyed.
Like, he's your guy. I'm like, all right, I guess.
Yeah, no, yeah, that
they
was
juice
mine.
it. I'm telling you, bud, they juice it.
Yeah, I love it.
Juice it for us.
Hey, Conspiracy Corner. Hey, this is a good way for me to plug for tomorrow. Tomorrow I have Scott Hansen, and
nice.
I gave him a bunch of conspiracy theories about my thoughts on Red Zone and what they're doing in the fire alarm. So tune in for that if you're a fan of Red Zone. And then I also have Danny Jansen tomorrow on the podcast. So follow the JD Bunkis podcast as well and do the same things.
Ohtani's signing?
Yeah, I'm 100%, buddy. I've like 6 questions written down, and they're all just different ways of me asking him about like, hey, so what kind of it's the game's, it's a 3-2 count, it's a big spot. What pitch are you telling Ohtani to throw? Like, have you already scouted him? I want to know.
I don't get much chance to do non-Leaf stuff anymore.
Yeah, I just got on my show one time.
I just quickly before we go, just be careful out there with the Ohtani reports, okay? Got a few sent to me in the couple group chats from like, wait till passing. Yeah, like maybe wait for the passing tweet.
Yeah.
Can we just we can be excited, but we don't need to be sharing some of the tweets that I've been seeing. It's like maybe we just wait for passing or Feinsand or like one of the professionals. Maybe just wait for that.
Here's what I'll tell you. If those guys aren't tweeting it and then you're seeing it from dudes who you haven't heard from in 20 years, I think that it's pretty clear, what the validity of those reports are. This is the season. It happens all the time whenever guys are in rumors, there's dudes on the fringes that use it as like, I got nothing to lose. Like no one's going to remember if I miss. So I'm just going to take a shot and say that this is the case. And then I'll parade it forever if it actually hits. It's just, it's an easy mark play in sports media. So have a little bit of media literacy, look out there and
Thank you. That was it. But be excited because this is an exciting time. He was down to like 3-1 odds to sign with the Jays on Sportsbook. Be excited.
Hey, guess what? It's very unlikely that he comes here. So this is probably the best time. This is the time where we all think we're going to maybe get off that. So soak it up. Enjoy it. All right. We got to run. JD Bunkis, Sam McKee. This is Leafs Talk. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Saturday night against the Bruins.
Nice.